Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jana Turvey. I'm the president and CEO of Lesnoy Incorporated. Lesnoy is one of the 200 village corporations established under the Alaskan Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971. I'm from Kodiak Island in Alaska, born and raised. I'm super happy to be here, and I want to welcome my distinguished guests here on the Fireside chat with me to talk about the power of partnerships. And to give them the proper introduction, please pardon me while I read their bios. To my very far left is Curtis McQueen. In September of 2023, Curtis became the executive director of the Alaska Native Village Corporation Association, representing 176 Alaska Native Village corporations. Curtis currently serves on the Rasmussen Foundation Board of Directors, which is Alaska's largest philanthropic organization. He brings extensive experience from working in the Alaska Native community with Fortune 100 and 400 national and international corporations, and with many of Alaska's corporate, local, state, and federal leaders. He served as the CEO of Eklutna Incorporated, which is the village corporation representing Anchorage and the Mat-Su Borough from 2005 to 2019. Curtis is Tlingit Indian from Southeast Alaska. He is from the Eagle Killer Whale Clan and is a member of the Tlingit Haida Indian Tribes of Alaska. Right next to me, I'd like to introduce Richard Camilleri. Richard is from Utqiagvik, Alaska, which is the northernmost community in the United States. You might know it better as Barrow. He is the Chief Administrative Officer and Deputy General Counsel of Utqiagvik Inupiat Corporation, UIC, one of the Alaska's largest companies with over 4,400 employees and over 70 active subsidiaries globally. They serve their 3,800 Inupiaq shareholders and their descendants. Richard is an alumni of Barrow High School from Utqiagvik. He pursued higher education at Syracuse University, earning dual Bachelor of Arts degrees in policy studies and political science. He also earned a Juris Doctorate at Temple University, Beasley School of Law, where he was a Conwell Scholar and a Law and Public Policy Scholar. So gentlemen, welcome to my chat with me today.
Thank you.
So Richard, we're going to start with you, and we're going to talk about the power of partnerships and working with Alaskan entities. But I think in order to start that conversation, it's going to be really important for our audience to understand the unique model that we have in Alaska with our self-governance and our sovereignty, particularly under NCAIED. Can you share some insights to that?
Yes, absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jana. As Jana mentioned, I have the privilege for working for UIC, which is Utqiagvik Inupiat Corporation, and we are the Alaska Native Corporation, specifically the village corporation for the village where I was raised, Utqiagvik. And as Jana mentioned, Utqiagvik is located in the very northern tip of Alaska, some 300 miles above the Arctic Circle. So in Alaska, our native corporations, or ANCs as we like to call them, they can be kind of difficult for people to understand. That's true in Alaska, and it's even more true for our friends down here in the lower 48 who don't have to interact with them as often as we do. Obviously, ANCs are unique to Alaska, and they're really an interesting blend of a Western corporate structure as a base that's mixed with a tribal focus. They're run by our Indigenous shareholders, and while they're for profit, they also have these social and cultural mandates to serve and to benefit our Indigenous shareholders, our tribal members, and our communities. And Alaska Native corporations came about as a result of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, as Jana mentioned, also referred to as ANCSA. And this is legislation that was passed by Congress in 1971, and it was Congress's attempt to settle land claims with Alaska's Indigenous people for the people who have been living on these lands, subsisting, thriving for thousands of years. And in terms of the structure, the Act divided our state geographically into 12 regions, and as a result of those divisions, 12 regional corporations were created. And in addition to our regional corporations, we have, as Jana mentioned, over 200 village corporations that exist within these regions spread across the state. And when these corporations were created, they received land rights and also financial compensation in exchange for the relinquishment of traditional claims to the remaining land outside of the act. Many people refer to NCAIED as kind of an experiment by Congress because the goal at the time was to find an alternate way to settle lands with Indigenous people. And Congress was really trying to find an alternative to what had been done down here in the lower 48 with Native American tribes and the establishment of reservations. And I think something that I like to point out to people is that this structure, this corporate structure, wasn't anything that was self-designed. It wasn't designed by our people. It was really a structure that was forced on Indigenous people and on our communities by Congress. And this was in large part due to the oil discoveries that happened on the North Slope at the time, and there was a very strong desire from government to get that oil on the market. So it took our traditional subsistence economy to a Western market really quick. And I think additionally, I would just point out that while these are for-profit corporations, they're very unique. So our shareholders, corporate shareholders, they're actually our tribal members, and they're only our tribal members. These shares, this stock that our shareholders own, they can't be bought, they can't be sold, they can't be traded. They're only transferred through families, and that usually happens through gift or through death. And again, the corporations have a number of social and cultural mandates to the shareholders and to their communities. And all of the work that we do is for the purpose of bringing value to our shareholders and communities.
Great. Thank you, Richard. That's a great overview of that. So, Curtis, let's start the conversation about the power of partnerships and how we work with our Alaskan entities. I'll ask you first, and then, Richard, I'm going to ask you to also share some thoughts. Tell me about the organizations that you've worked for and your history of success in partnerships within our Alaskan structure.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Curtis McQueen, my Tlingit name, my Indian name is Chalk. I'm Eagle Kilowell Klukahutty from the ancient lands of Haines, Alaska. When I came back from college, I went to work for 2 state governors and started my career in state government. Spent about half a decade there getting to know our state government, but also watching how our state government interacted with our tribes and our corporations. And then I worked for my tribe, which is Central Council Tlingit Haida Indian Tribes of Alaska, for 5 years, and we had a business enterprise, so I got to get a little bit involved with the business enterprise on the tribal side first, and then I was asked to join the Dena'ina, the Eklutna people that are based out of Anchorage, Alaska, and in the Mat-Su, and eventually became the CEO. One of my first board meetings that I attended, I immediately recognized some of the teachings that my grandparents and my mother taught me was I'm a tribal citizen first, because we've been here for thousands of years, and then I was a shareholder second. And we've just celebrated about 51 years of NCAIED, all of us, in the last year or two. But half of my board was also on the tribal council. So they would take one hat off when they left the tribal council and put one board member hat on. And it was a beautiful thing, but it had its challenges because they had 2 different missions. And so over the years, what we really worked on was actually, let's have a shared mission and let's work together. And some of the examples was the corporation got all the land, was just described from NCAIED, but the tribe considered that land traditional land,
right.
Hunting, gathering, fishing. But we were charged as a corporation to make money. Fortunately for us, or unfortunately, depends on how you look at it, we were centered in the largest growth market in Alaska. Anchorage pushed 400,000 people. The Mat-Su Valley pushed 150,000, so the highest concentration of population was right around on Dena'ina land. That gave us an opportunity to start developing some of our land, and a lot of the housing that has helped Anchorage grow has come from Eklutna. We worked with our tribe so that we started over the years to build our own business. Instead of letting home builders come in and civil contractors come in, we started to transition to build our own companies working with our tribe and working with our shareholders, and then started to do most of the work ourselves, including road building, gravel. As we built our companies up, the tribe got a different color of money because they could get grants, we couldn't get grants. But as they got grants, they needed infrastructure to be built for their buildings, for their clinics. And so the corporation took our expertise of our companies. We hired tribal members who ended up being carpenters, heavy equipment operators, truck drivers, crane operators, and started through our own people on both sides building our own infrastructure. We ended up building a clinic for our tribe. We ended up building a Ernie Turner Center, a treatment center for our tribe. And probably one of our proudest projects is the Eklutna people thousands of years ago settled on the mouth of a river called the Eklutna River because all 5 species of salmon were in that river. In 1929, a non-native person put a big dam up about a mile up and started the first hydro project that then got abandoned. Working with our tribe and our corporation in 2018, we took that dam down. A dam had never been taken down in Alaska, let alone by the Alaska Native people, let alone by the tribe and the corporation together. And so there was a lot of synergy in how we came and worked together. And that's a little bit of the uniqueness about Eklutna. The other thing we started to do was the regional corporations that Jana mentioned. Siri, Cook Inlet region, had 8 villages underneath it. We were one of them. We started to partner with the regional corporation and started to do construction work with them, started to run hard rock quarries, gravel pits, and started to do base work together. So now you've got the region, the village, and the tribe all working together.
Those are great examples. Curtis, thank you so much. Richard, tell us about your region and the things that you've done inside to partner with your tribe and local entities.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Arctic slope, we do a lot of similar things that Curtis just mentioned. At UIC, we work regularly to partner to really leverage opportunities for the benefit of our people, our communities, our region, and really our shareholders. And at UIC, we do this with big things to the little things. I think a really easy one to explain, village corporations and regional corporations were the landowners. So we partner with our tribes to support them by providing them land for their facilities, by providing them facilities to lease out. We're presently working with our Ilisagvik College, which is Alaska's only tribal college, to give them new land for the construction of a new campus. Another really good example on the North Slope is something that's been a priority for UIC in the last few years, and that's bringing back our trilateral agreement. And what is a trilateral? If you're outside of Alaska, you might not be familiar with something like that. Really, it's a partnership agreement between our municipality, the city of Utqiagvik, our tribe, the native village of Barrow, and our village corporation, UIC. And it allows us the opportunity to meet annually to set priorities, and then we meet at least quarterly to check in with each other to see how we're doing. And it's great because it provides a private space for us to discuss issues, to discuss concerns, to talk about opportunities. We regularly discuss funding opportunities that might be available. Could any of us apply to them? Is there somebody else who might be able to apply to it so that our community doesn't leave money on the table? And it gives us the space to have candid conversations amongst each other as a community to really evaluate projects and requests and things that are coming our way. We can talk privately about what we like, what we don't like, and we can work together to develop a unified voice so we can communicate that unified voice to whatever outside entity might be looking for our feedback. And additionally, the partnership works in the reverse, where to the private sector and to the public sector, it makes things a little easier for them because they could just reach out to us when they want to share information, or if they need to consult with us, or they're just passing information along. So it's really helpful. And that model isn't unique to Utqiagvik. If you're from Alaska, this sort of setup exists all across our rural communities. And when it's done well, it's really, really effective at just maximizing resources for community success.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, we have a similar setup in the NCAIED region. We have our unity protocols, and we always speak with a unified voice because we, as Native people, know we're so much stronger together than we are fractioned apart. Let's take, with just the few minutes that we have left in the conversation, partnerships at a broader level. Because in our various roles and working in different types of companies, we need to partner with larger businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs, working with the federal government. So, gentlemen, I'm going to ask both of you for just a couple of minutes on each side. Tell the audience about experiencing with partnering at that level and how that helps bring success to our Native people at home. Curtis?
Well, I would say, piggybacking off what I shared about us growing our own capacity and building our own companies, we ended up starting to subcontract out with Alaska companies that may not have been native, but they were very well-known general contractors, electricians, mechanical. And then we started to build teams where if those partnerships worked very well, then we would form teams to go after more work together. We would encourage our partners to try to hire as many of our people as possible, but we ended up having some really long-term relationships. That was architectural, that was engineering, that was contracting, that was drywall, everything to do with the trades. And then as ANBCA, which representing 176 village corporations, that talent started to work in the lower 48 as well. And a lot of our members have offices in the lower 48 through government contracting and have a pretty interesting history of working with some of the Indian organizations in the lower 48. It's your backyard, you know your contractors. We come in because we've got a job. We look to you. We look to work from workforce development to actual subcontracting. And those relationships become very important. And there's, I imagine, even some examples of some of the lower 48 folks coming to Alaska because of that relationship and working up in Alaska. And I think with this current administration, I think we're all nervous about a few things, but the one thing I think we should be focusing on in Alaska is oil and gas. And I heard on stage a couple people talk about oil and gas, and I think there's an opportunity between the Alaskan folks and the folks down in the lower 48 to team up on some of that oil and gas that's going on in both your country and our country. And I'm pretty excited about looking at that potential.
Thank you so much, Curtis. Richard, we got about a minute for you there.
All right, I think really one really great success story from UIC at home that I would like to share, and we don't have a lot of time, but I really would encourage you to look them up. The company is called UIC Science, and they are based at home in Utqiagvik. They are an 8A, SBA 8A program graduate, and they've been working for the last almost decade at providing support for scientific research and for military logistics. And as everyone knows, with the Arctic has been a hot topic for quite some time. Some of the two primary issues are climate change, the need for research, the need for monitoring, the need to understand how these changes are impacting us at home, but also impacting us globally. And then in terms of military support, there are just a number of different national security issues and geopolitical tensions that have caused really internationally an interest in Arctic and people beefing up their military. And it's very true for Alaska as well. And this company that we have provides support and logistics, provides facilities, provides boats and trucks and ATVs, but we do all of this with an indigenous focus, and it's all through an indigenous lens. And we employ our tribal members as traditional knowledge experts. So they're working side by side with the scientists, with the military to show them really, you know, we are the experts of the Arctic. We've been living there for thousands of years. We understand the land, the tundra, the ice, how things move. We understand how to keep you safe. We can correct the errors in your Western science, your misconceptions about how to conduct a military exercise in the Arctic, and it's proven to be incredibly successful.
I love that story because there's absolutely nothing more valuable than our indigenous knowledge. So thank you for sharing that. Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, that ends the time that we have here today on this Fireside Chat, but I want to do a plug to the audience. We're going to continue this conversation at 3:30 at one of the breakout sessions. We will be in the Salerno Ballroom, and we will bring in a couple of our tribal leaders as well. But we want to talk about the power of partnerships and expanding those partnerships to lower 48 tribes, entrepreneurs, and other folks that are represented here today. So thank you very much. We hope to see you at 3:30. Please give my panelists a round of applause.
Thank you.